Since the birth of this country, we've been talking about taxes. From taxation without representation to Ben Franklin's famous line that nothing is certain except death and taxes. And 242 years later,
the biggest tax cuts in American history.
This tax bill is shameful.
We're still talking about it. While politicians are making promises and arguing on the campaign trail, we're taking a deep dive into the real impact taxes are having on people. We're in Illinois, one of the highest tax states in America. How the tax climate here is forcing families to make tough decisions. This week, we have how your vote could impact your family's bottom line. Real talk, free of charge. This is The Race. Welcome into The Race. I'm Chris Stewart, and this week we are in Chicago, and we're talking about taxes. How much money the government takes from you, how the government spends your money. A lot of that can shape your vote come November. Now, when President Trump signed his tax reform bill into law last December, a lot of companies responded with worker bonuses and investments, and Republicans hope that momentum will carry them into the November midterm elections. Corey Rangel talking with them and Democrats about whether they think that's going to happen.
For nearly a year, Republicans have been praising the Trump tax cuts.
And those tax cuts are one of the reasons the economy is doing so well.
9 out of 10 workers are keeping more of what they make.
We delivered sweeping tax cuts for workers and families.
The tax cuts have been the biggest recent legislative victory for Republicans, and they plan to use the issue as a centerpiece of their campaign in the midterm elections.
I think it was unfortunate when Nancy Pelosi described the benefits of the tax plan as crumbs. I don't think for the average family of 4 getting a $2,000 tax cut and having the child tax credit increased to $2,000, having the standard deduction doubled from $10,000 to $20,000 are just crumbs.
But it turns out the Trump tax plan might not be a winning issue. Several polls, including one commissioned by Republicans, show most voters do not feel it's helping them out.
It does not necessarily benefit the average American, everyday American citizen. I think that it benefits a certain percentage of wealthy individuals.
Democrats have argued it not only helps the rich, but it will end up costing the country.
Republicans have made no secret about their agenda. Add trillions to the debt and then use those debts to justify slashing Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and the list goes on.
But Republicans blame those entitlement programs, not the tax cuts, for the growing deficit that just jumped to its highest level in 6 years.
It's driven by the 3 big entitlement programs that are very popular: Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid. That's 70% of what we spend every year.
For The Race, I'm Corey Rangel.
Now, our partners at PolitiFact found that each income bracket does benefit at least somewhat when it comes to President Trump's tax plan. I mean, just take a look at this chart right here. You can see that each bracket will pay less taxes in 2019. That's in blue. However, the red represents how many taxpayers actually fall into that bracket. And you can also see a small amount of millionaires got a large chunk of the breaks. Now, keep in mind, your savings, that depends on your specific situation. But there are a lot of changes to what you can deduct when it comes to filing your taxes next year. Nicole Val getting an early reality check from an expert.
There's a lot that goes on right here.
If you work at home, work for someone else,
I feel productive, it's efficient.
Or you're like Elaine Espinola, do a little bit of both.
Consulting, I do voiceover work.
When you sit down to do your taxes in the next 6 months, there are some things you need to know. Espinola is one of the 150 million Americans who's gearing up to file a tax return under the new law.
It sounds like I can't, deduct a lot of those things that we had been.
Sounds like she's right.
A visual image of what the Internal Revenue Code looks like.
Tax expert Ed Carl explains the tax bill that passed last December is the biggest overhaul to the tax code in over 3 decades.
Nothing of this magnitude since 1986.
While some tax credits like standard deductions have increased, some items once deductible are now either limited or gone.
There were a number of them that were eliminated.
For example, if you paid mortgage interest, alimony, moving expenses, have personal exemptions, or if you're like Espinola.
You have this space that's dedicated to you and your work zone.
And plan to deduct home office costs, you may no longer be eligible for a tax break.
And look to see, are there other changes I can make that could help me?
But Carl says it's never too late to make some adjustments.
There's still a couple of months to adjust withholding.
Or if you're stuck wondering how to sort it all out.
I would think a lot of people are going to want to work with an accountant this year because there's so many changes.
Hiring help is one way, and paying attention to who makes the laws is another.
I would definitely recommend that that's something that people keep in mind when they're voting, for sure.
For The Race, I'm Nicole Vowell reporting.
When the race continues from Illinois, one of the highest tax states in America, how people here tell us their bottom line is forcing them to make really tough decisions.